수상자들을 발표하겠습니다. 자, 우리 심사위원님 모시겠습니다. 뜨거운 박수 부탁드립니다.
네, 안녕하십니까. 오늘 오랜 시간 다들 또 발표도 하시느라 또 들으시느라 너무 고생하셨습니다. 저희도 심사 결과를 내는데 상당히 어려웠습니다. 왜냐하면 여기 발표하신 14분 모두 다 너무너무 수준이 높아서 하나하나 장단점이라든가 우리가 중요시하는 부분에 대해서 어떤 부분에서 평가를 할지에 대해서 저희가 지표가 있지만 또 나름대로 고민도 하고 또 저희가 전체적으로 다 평가를 순위대로 하면서 특별하게 강점으로 보는 부분이 여러분들이 발표하실 때 가지고 있는 자신감을 표현하는 것들, 그리고 자신의 경험과 그리고 그동안 준비했던 노력들, 그리고 영어 발표를 하는 인토네이션과 그리고 스피치 톤 이런 걸 다양하게 검토를 해서 저희가 전부 다 상을 드리지 못하고 5분에게만 순위를 먹여서 상을 장려상 3분, 그리고 우수상 1분, 그리고 최우수상 1분 이렇게 5분을 수상자로 선정을 했습니다. 그렇다고 해서 오늘 수상을 하지 못하는 분들도 충분한 상을 받으실 자격이 있다고 생각하시고 또 수료도 하시고 그리고 앞으로 이 패드에 대해 다른 기회들 이번에 또 개최될 예정이고 내년에도 있고 하니까 많은 참여와 관심을 가지고 도전해 보시는 것을 권해드립니다. 이번 심사를 통해서 수상하신 분들 진심으로 축하드리고요. 수상을 하신 분도 다시 한번 주제를 해주시기 바랍니다.
감사합니다. 5분은 내일 주말 빼고 화요일 날 저희들이 미국 테드 본사로 송출을 합니다. 그래서 미국 테드 본사에서 심의를 하고 좋은 작품이라고 판단되면은 유튜브에 테드 공식 홈페이지에 올라갑니다. 얼마나 중요하냐면요. 연세대학교 수시 과정에서 무료 패스, 토플 100점에 해당되는 점수가 나가는 똑같습니다. 엄청나죠? 대단하게 보이시고 아무튼 발표 면담 제 손에 이제 다 들어왔습니다. 저는 다 보고 있는데 바로 이런 맛이구나. 바로 하는 게 이런 맛이었어요. 네. 자, 장려상 3분 먼저 발표하겠습니다. 장려상 3분. 첫 번째 6번 조원택. 수상자들은 일단 한꺼번에 앞으로 나오셔가지고 할 거고 일단은 큰 박수 부탁드립니다. 자, 장려상 8번 유지안. 다음에 장려상 마지막 장려상입니다. 13번 박수민. 축하드리고 자, 이제 2분 남았습니다. 자, 우수상을 발표하겠습니다. 자, 우수상 12번 신주안. 축하드립니다. 자, 이제 대망의 최우수상, 최우수상을 발표하겠습니다. 최우수상 최우수상 참가번호 이런 기분인가 봐요. 자, 다시 발표하겠습니다. 최우수상 참가번호 10번 신희수. 감사합니다. 자, 그리고 자, 이제 저희 그 최진영 대표님의 해외상 다 마치고 지금 네, 시상식을 지금 진행하겠습니다. 네. 자, 수상자들은 전부 앞으로 나와주시기 바랍니다. 자, 장려상부터 먼저 하겠습니다. 네. 자, 그래서 상장은 우리 그 최진영 대표님께서 하고, 그 보상은 저희 그 김영석 교육분담원장님께서 하시겠습니다. 그리고 부장님. 부상은 그 아까 말씀드린 김승남 그 저희 그 대치포럼 부모님께서 주신 거고 구입을 했습니다. 자, 장려상 앞으로 보이겠습니다. 조원택. 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.
이렇게 가운데에서
그럼 이거 내가 이거 찍을 테니까 이걸 잡아. 잘 보이나요?
자, 두 번째 박수민.
아, 그래요?
저 앞에 오셔서 지금 다시 한번. 네,
자, 다음 우수상 신주안.
자, 지금 너무 잘했어요.
자, 최우상 김민수 학생.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Selling newspapers has become unprecedentedly rare. I'll tell my personal experience. I joined the newspaper reading club in my school. I had to bring a newspaper to the school for the activity. However, I couldn't find any newspaper stands in my area. Next time, my father had to bring the newspapers from his office. Let's go to the statistics. Even though the societal effect of newspaper is decreasing rapidly, as you can see in the graph, I consider that the role of journalism is not lessened because the world needs the media to make it a better place. Have you ever made your own newspaper? Someone will say yes. However, most of you will say no, right? Then let's change the question. Did you make a newspaper and continue with more than 5 volumes? Anyone? No. No. Okay. Since I had great interest in societal issues, I decided to make my own newspaper. I submitted my project plan to my teacher and started the project. The newspaper's name is The Dreamer. It has the meaning of stepping forward to my dream as a journalist. Sorry? I'll tell you the steps of making a newspaper. First, read the news articles from various newspapers. By reading various newspapers with many different sides, I choose my own opinion about societal issues. Second, gather the data. Evidence has a great effect on the logic of the article. So, gathering the data is very important. Third, writing news articles. There are many types of news reports, such as information reports, commentary, opinions. I usually prefer commentary and opinions because they can deliver my opinions to the readers. Fourth, proofreading. It is way better to proofread. You might find the weak point in your logic, typo, and several other mistakes in your article. Fifth, sum up the advice and edit. I usually share my newspaper to my family and mates. They often find the mistakes in the article which I couldn't find in the proofreading. After a few months of making my journal, I got the chance to step forward to my dream. It was the Teenager Journalist Program by Youth Training Center of Junggu Intrametropolis. I handed in the application, and fortunately, I was chosen as a teenager journalist. Now, I am enjoying working as a teenager journalist. Joining a newspaper reading club, making my own newspaper, working as a teenager journalist are the stepping stones to my dream as a journalist. This is the reason that my own journal's name, The Dreamer, is The Dreamer. The continuity has a great power. Myself, after decades, will prove it. Thank you.
A meaningful life is not about being rich, being popular, being highly educated, or being perfect. It's about being real, being humble, able to connect ourselves, and share the life of ours. Hello, my name is Joanne Shin, and today I'm going to present how to live a meaningful life and the importance of it. Everybody has a hard life problem. Who doesn't? Children need to study 24 hours a day, and adults need to work and also take care of their children. Nobody has a perfect life. Same here. Well, you might think I'm only a 13-year-old who doesn't know anything about the whole wide world, but no. I also had life problems, and I tried to find a solution for it. I thought, why can't I find a solution? Then I came up with a solution, which was to make your life meaningful. Here, Google says a meaningful life is when you feel engaged, connected to purpose, and able to connect your gifts and passions to your highest values. Probably some of you here tried to make your life meaningful. And I'm curious, did you succeed? If you did not, you need to concentrate on my talk from now on. Problems aren't solved by just shouting out, "Let's do it," or "I can do it." You need something else than that. In order to make your life meaningful, you need willpower. And willpower comes from mindset. Now, what is a mindset? Mindset is an established set of attitudes held by someone. For example, if you're thinking pessimistically, do you think you'll have the energy to do anything? No, you need a happy, optimistic mindset so your brain will feel happy and you'll have the energy to do something. If you're thinking, "I don't care about the world," or "I don't care about my future," there's a small chance of living a meaningful life. According to Skillshare.com, mindset can affect the way we think about everything. The Pullman Central states that growth mindset has a positive effect on children's educational motivation and purpose. Actually, in America, a 70% increase in growth mindset causes a 60% increase on reading scores, and this proves that mindset affects our life positively. Now, if you have your mindset ready, let's go to the next step. The next step is willpower, as I told you before. Willpower is the ability to control one's actions, emotions, or urges. And it's very important. Here's why. My mom was trying to make her life meaningful because of games. She had all this plans, she had all this willpower, and she actually looked ready to do it. She was racing, talking about what she will do tomorrow and how she will use her time wisely. Well, how did it go? I think she tried her best, but she failed because games are too addictive. In this experience, I learned that willpower was the problem. Well, you need to actually accomplish your goal so you will have the willpower to make your life meaningful. Actually, I myself tried to make my life meaningful by studying really hard and playing after studying. It's a really great plan, but I failed because I didn't have willpower. Every time I saw the work I needed to do, I got immediate stress, and I just played games. And the more games I played, the more work I needed to do. This terrible routine made me a couch potato. Now you may be thinking, if that person failed, why in the world is he teaching me how to do it? However, I learned something very valuable from failing, and that is, as I said, willpower and mindset. I'll give an example. I think a meaningful life is the life of the CEO of Tesla, Elon Musk. Yes, that guy with sunglasses. Elon Musk's childhood dream was to go to Mars, and when he became an adult, he made an investment on the company SpaceX. However, SpaceX failed a lot of times, causing Elon Musk to spend a lot of his money. However, Elon Musk didn't stop to go to his childhood dreams. At last, SpaceX succeeded. If you think you don't have enough willpower, here's a tip. Get better sleep. It has been proven by a psychologist, Kelly McGonigal, that having less sleep disturbs with the brain, part of your brain that makes decisions and causing a lack of willpower. Now you might think, do I really don't have any successful experiences? Actually, I do. As I said before, I wasted my time on games too much. I actually played over 5 hours a day. I knew it was a bad act, but I couldn't stop, and I just wanted to play it. However, recently I stopped, not only in words, but also in actions. I promised myself and my family that I won't play games anymore, no matter what. This actually caused my whole family to stop playing games. Now our family is not playing games and doing our work very hard. In this experience, I made a meaningful life. I had the mindset that I can do it. I had the willpower that I should do it, and I was able to think about the consequences. I just want to tell you that you need the willpower to succeed. What is the actual benefit of making your life meaningful? Well, you'll of course feel happy because you accomplished what the others couldn't. You yourself did something what you wanted. However, I need to warn you that you might be sad if you fail. Failing is a very bad thing, and you might be in grief for a long time and just do nothing. However, don't. Think about the things you want to do, change your mindset, and get up. Now I want you to answer this question. What will you do after watching and listening to my talk? Well, you might sleep, you might eat, you might play games, or you might do your housework. However, anyone can start a meaningful life anytime. Thank you.
Data is everywhere in our lives. Yesterday, I searched up the periodic table on Google to solve a chemistry problem. And next, I watched a video on YouTube, and I did a chatting with my friends. And I went to tuition class. I did some math problems and bought some bubble tea. After I came back, I wrote my diary and checked messages to see if I missed anything. And lastly, I checked my screen time. Wow, 3 hours. Anyway, all of these things I did yesterday is data. So what is data? On dictionary, it defines data as statistics and facts that are collected for reference and analysis. And big data means extremely large data sets that are analyzed computationally to do some mathematical problems and to reveal some patterns and trends. So we can see data being used everywhere these days. And also it was used in 18,000 BCE. This is a Shango. It is known to be one of the oldest objects with data written on it. So nobody actually knows what they wrote about, but many people think that it was a counting tool used to do some simple mathematical procedures. And data developed and developed. So the volume of data consumed, created, and captured worldwide in 2010 was just 2 zettabytes. And however, in 2022, the Statista Research Department assumes that it will be 97 zettabytes. So 1 zettabyte is 2 to the power of 70 bytes. And a byte is a unit of data equal to 8 bits. And all data is a combination of 0 and 1. And 0 on 1 becomes 1 bit, and it represents 2 states. So therefore, 97 zettabytes is 97 times 2 to the power of 70 times 8 bits. and it is a really huge amount of data. To make it easier, if you see the movie Inside Out, our heads hold very huge amount of memories, which is all data. And that enormous amount of data, it is for 7.7 billion people. Therefore, it is very enormous amount. And I don't even think the word enormous can express it. So, big data and data are used for everything, just everything. Like everywhere, every company, every people use big data. So, every people on this is a big data visualization, and it shows us the amount of the plastic bottles generated daily, and it is compared to Eiffel Tower. This made our eyes and brains just instantly recognize how serious it is. This just gave me the impact, gave you the impact, and this big data visualization can make our world to take global warming more seriously. I'll move on to the next example. So, aging society is becoming a problem these days, especially in Korea. The elderly people, when they die, they are usually found a few weeks or a few months later. And to prevent that tragedy, we can use electrical data from refrigerator. So when we open the fridge, the electricity we use a lot. So therefore, if there is no change in electrical usage, then we can predict that. And not just for this fridge, we can use this on other things. For example, we can put a similar technology on the bed. We can make a bed to collect person's temperature to see if someone is healthy. Or we can use that technology on the toilet. And when someone urinates, the toilet analyzes the excrement of the person and informs person if there is a problem on their health. So like this, there are so many ways that we can use data to save people. And next, data also helped me with my studies. So I try to study in different places. And I wrote my study planner for both home and library for a few days. I wrote the time I studied and when I rest. So first at home, the straight concentrating was average of 1 hour. Because there was a bed behind me, I couldn't focus a lot. But however, at the library, the straight concentrating time was 2.5 hours. Therefore, studying at the library is best for me. So data helped me to find the good place for me to study. Now we just began to understand what the data is telling us. Now it's a time to use the data and transform it to meaningful advances. And as I mean by meaningful advances, it can be our creative thoughts that came up to your mind based on data analysis. Like what I talked about before. So I think there will be so many amazing ideas that can come by data analysis if we use just data in a right way. I truly believe the data can pave the way to a better world. Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you. I'm living in China, so unfortunately Unfortunately, I have to do my presentation online. Thank you for your appreciation. Today, I want to talk about why we students experienced hardship during the pandemic. Before the pandemic, school started at 8:30. So in order to go on time, I had to wake up at 7 a.m. early, wash my face, brush my teeth, change my pajamas, eat breakfast, and rush to school. However, the pandemic has changed our lives and routines quite drastically over the past few years. School starts at 8:30, like usual, but I wake up at 8:25. I quickly turn on my computer, open Zoom, and at the same time, I quickly change my top form my full uniform, still wearing pajamas again. Then, I grab some apple slices and sneak some bites before I'm admitted into the classroom. This was my routine for more than a year. The COVID pandemic not only turned me into a couch potato, but it also heightened my levels of stress and anxiety. Opportunities to interact with friends dropped as disease prevention measures restricted students' social life. For example, open learning made it hard for me to focus, and ever-present technical problems made the learning unstable, resulting in an educational gap. While my education suffered, my addiction to the internet only became worse because schools, academies, and the government forced students to communicate solely through online social media. The more the pandemic increased restrictions, the gloomier and more lethargic I became. My experience is not unique, but applicable to most of the students around the world, including my friends, sisters, and you. All in all, I noticed that these changes, and educational gaps, social distancing, and internet addiction were the major stressors for students during the pandemic. To begin with, let's look at the educational gap and the effects the pandemic has had on students as a whole. Though the educational gap has always been a concern, the sudden switch to online learning, driven by the rise of COVID-19, exacerbates the problem further. Approximately 12% of students ages 3 to 19 live in households without any access to laptops or desktop computers. Therefore, students from low-income households are falling further behind their wealthier counterparts. A study conducted by McKinsey and Company found that students who are average can be left behind by up to 9 months in math, but the students from low-income households can be left behind by up to 12 months during the pandemic. However, this gap does not exclusively impact the poorer students, but also those in the middle rank who are likely to fall into the lower rank according to the studies. Even with the proper resources, students suffer because parents are unable to supervise them properly, and parents and teachers cannot give the guidance or support that was once possible. Notice the students as they face difficulties in solving technical problems, digesting their learning, and focusing on their learning. Unsurprisingly, educational gap is one of the major stressors to the students during the pandemic. As to the second, social distancing and other climate measures disturb students' social life. 3/4 of parents agree that the pandemic negatively affected their teens' connections with friends. Before the pandemic, the society was characterized by its physical meetings with friends, and therefore students spent their time enjoying their leisure activities with their friends. It has long been understood by psychologists that play is not just an enjoyment or a pleasure, but a necessity, since it reinforces some skills that cannot be achieved through worksheets or excessive screen time. However, the pandemic deprives students and adults from this fundamental human need. As a result, kids feel isolated and powerless as they spend time alone at home with very little physical communication with people. Therefore, and other preventive measures limit these kinds of social and emotional feedbacks that students can acquire and incite feeling of depression and isolation among students. Internet addiction is one of the major stressors to the students during the pandemic. During the pandemic, I watched this laptop screen for about 5 hours a day, excluding time spent in online learning for about 7 hours a day. So in total, 12 hours a day. Compared to the time before COVID, it was obvious that I was addicted to internet use. A survey also proved that students were more likely to be addicted to internet during the pandemic. Parents agreed that 54% of their tweets have been texting or using social media, 43% were online dating, and 35% were talking on their phone every day or almost every day. So, what is the correlation between screen time and depression? Well, according to the new study published in the journal Preventive Medicine Report, shows that students whose screen time is longer than 7 hours a day are more than twice as likely to be diagnosed with depression and anxiety than those whose screen time is less than 1 hour a day. These students whose screen time is long were more easily distracted, less emotionally stable, and had more difficulty solving tests or making friends. Therefore, internet addiction also worked as a hardship for the students during the pandemic. As we acknowledge these stressors, we should learn how to get rid of them. As a student, I would like to explain some solutions that students themselves can put into practice by sharing my own experience. First, I also have some difficulty focusing on online learning as well. Therefore, I made some learning notes. I wrote some main points of my learning while listening simultaneously. As I continued doing this, I was able to focus better than before, and I was clearly understanding the content. Also, this note-taking not only helped myself, but also helped other students who have learning loss. Short notes gave them ideas about what we have learned during classes and also improved their grades. Secondly, it was hard for me to meet friends face-to-face during the pandemic. Therefore, I decided to stay in contact with them in a different way. So, we opened a Zoom meeting and we opened our cameras and showed ourselves studying. And by seeing each other studying as well, we were motivated and it also brought us closer. This relieved my stress of feeling anxious or depressed. Thirdly, I knew that I should stop playing with my phones and other mobile types of machinery. Therefore, I tried to keep my attention away from the screen. So, for example, I like to dance, so I try to keep my attention to dancing instead of screen. Also, I like to read books, so I try to read as much as books as possible during the pandemic. As I continued doing this, I was able to keep my attention away from the screen. To the students around the world, pandemic took a lot from us. Our life changed completely. However, you should learn how to adapt to different circumstances. Reflect on yourself and learn about why you are depressed or anxious about it, and try to find a solution for that. The pandemic will last longer than we think, and you may face other hardships. Many perspectives wisely. Thank you.
What do you get when you think about conflicts? Fighting, kicking, or physical or emotional damage? But conflicts are not as bad as you think. You might learn something ethical by forgiving others, expand and grow your communicating skills, and strengthen your relationships. And overall, most conflicts don't do a lot of physical or emotional damage. However, there's one type of conflict that could affect hundreds or potentially thousands of people in this world. And it is conflicts with other nations. Conflicts with other nations won't just result in bad relationships with each other, but it will also start a series of misfortunes, which may or may not lead into a chain reaction. So what kind of global impacts or chain reactions does conflicts with other nations have? At first, I didn't know much about wars or the impact they had until February 2022. When I was doing my math homework, I overheard my mom and dad listening to the news. The news was about Russia invading Ukraine. At first, I was not worried or even concerned about this alarming situation. What does it have to do with us? This isn't any of our concerns. Well, I kept thinking that until my trip to the gas station. When I went there, I realized that the prices were different, but not in a good way. There was a significant price gap between this year and last year. At first, I was confused. What was causing the gas prices to go up? Then I researched about it, then it all made sense. As you know, Russia is a major producer of oil. The oil that the Russians produce for nearly 8% of the whole world. And disproportionately all of Europe. And a lot of countries are unwilling to buy oil from Russia because of their actions. This makes the value of oil go up, thus resulting in price rises. I later learned that the prices of wheat and fertilizer are also going up. As you might know, Russia and Ukraine are the major producers of wheat in our world, and they provide 29% of the world's wheat. And Russia is also a major producer of fertilizer. So price rises. Is there anything more? Sure. So, after that gas price incident, I was a little bit curious. In what other ways did the Russian and Ukrainian war affect the world? I researched about it on the internet, and it said this. In the website, Russia and Ukrainian war, has the world changed? I was interested in some expert. He said something about other nations learning from the war. For example, China learned that they could use nuclear weapons not only as a weapon, but as a deterrent or a shield as well to prevent other countries from entering the war. For example, if the Chinese were going to invade Taiwan, then the US wouldn't be happy. But all the Chinese has to do is to threaten the US with nuclear weapons, and then boom, the US is out of the war. This lesson can later inspire the future generation to commit stronger violences against other nations, which could result in more deaths. Our lives will be shaped and changed by the consequences of this war. It may take years or potentially decades for these impacts to recede. However, this impact will most likely not run out and will be continued to use by humans among the society. Now, you might be thinking that the Russian and Ukrainian war only has global impacts like economical impacts or physical impacts or so on. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Among the impacts of the war, the mental impacts on civilian populations is one of the most significant. Women are more affected than men. Other vulnerable groups are the children, the elderly, and the disabled. So what kind of mental issues does wars like Russian and Ukrainian wars cause? Let's take a look at the Afghanistan war, for example. In a survey including 799 people, it showed a tragic result. A whopping 67.7% of the respondents had depression, and 42.2% of the respondents had PTSD and anxiety. These kinds of diseases pollute the human mind and can potentially cause physical sickness or even death. So how do we make the Russian and Ukrainian war to be the last war in this world? This is a very difficult question. We always strive for peace. However, we always seem to miss the opportunity. However, what I believe we really need to solve conflict or war is to get help from the community. The way I like to see conflicts or wars is a fire. One house on fire is one country suffering, two houses on fire are two countries suffering, and so on. So how do these fires start? Well, these fires can start from anything, from a small spark of cigarette to a large barbecue party. These materials can easily create a fire, but the annoying part is that they're not easy to hose out. A simple hose can't hose out a major fire, just like we can't feed a major enemy by ourselves. So what do? We call the firefighters, our neighbors, or a community to help put out the fire. When dealing with wars, such as the Russian and Ukrainian war, we need to act as a group, a whole, one, to put out the fire. And it has been proven successful. Let's take a look at the World War II, for example. When other countries battling Hitler's powerful and destructive military force were all suffering, when they could trust literally nobody, the Britain, the US, and the European nations get banded together, creating the Allies, stomping out Hitler's powerful and destructive military force, and thus putting out the fire. Neighboring countries should support each other, physically, mentally, or emotionally. In that way, we can hose out or prevent fires as big as the Great Fire of London. And I want to say one last thing to the Russians, the Ukrainians, and the whole world. Whenever you are suffering, you don't have to be alone. You don't have to suffer the burden of the fire alone. We are one in planet Earth, and we always will be. We will always work together to put out the fire. Thank you.
네, 됐습니다.
자, 안지원.
여기서 써야겠다.
저기 사진을 찍어야 되니까 주는 걸로라도 하나, 둘, 셋.
이준석.
고생했어요.
전남은 제주도에 있습니다. 조수아.
자, 하나, 둘, 셋.
백현석.
자, 우리 1번 타자. 1번 뒤쪽에. 하나, 둘, 셋.
양진현. 오. 김용훈.
이쪽 가운데. 하나, 둘, 셋. 네, 됐습니다.
김도한. 김준석.
네, 찍겠습니다. 하나, 둘.
최세린.
찍겠습니다. 자, 하나, 둘.
신희수. 다 수료증 끝나고 받아야 돼. 다 나오네. 신희수.
아, 이제 두 개가 있구나. 신입수. 자, 됐습니다. 네, 됐습니다.
조원택.
하나, 둘. 네, 됐습니다.
박수민.
하나, 둘. 네, 됐습니다.
신주환.
안 묻었어. 이렇게 교육이야. 자, 하나, 둘.
지금 드리고 있는 거는 그 고급 책받침대. 고급 책받침대 부상으로 하나씩 다 드립니다. 한마디 사인.
아시다시피 지금 시상해 주신 분은 우리 대치포럼의 회장이시라 현 강원도 전 행정부지사님이십니다. 또 이 친구들한테 또 좋은 기운이 전해지고 또 좋은 추억이 됐으면 하는 바람입니다.